A cross. 4 dots, carved into stone more than 2 centuries ago, and possibly copied from a symbol far older than anyone imagined. What if the mystery of Oak Island didn't begin in Nova Scotia at all? What if it began thousands of miles away, inside medieval churches, forgotten prisons, and secret tunnels built by warrior monks? Because this symbol, the cross with 4 dots, was never random. It appears again and again across Europe, Portugal, France, Italy, Malta, always in places connected to one group, the Knights Templar. So here's the question that refuses to go away. If the Templars marked sacred places with this symbol, why is it carved into a stone found on Oak Island? And more importantly, what were they trying to tell us? Oak Island has been excavated, flooded, drilled, and torn apart for over 200 years. Generations have searched, fortunes have been lost, and still the island refuses to give up its final secret. Stone structures buried deep underground, wooden platforms dated far earlier than official history allows, traces of gold and silver detected where no natural deposits should exist, evidence of human activity that shouldn't be there. And then there is the Hoe Stone. Discovered in 1921 on Thailand's northern shore, it was once part of a massive boulder. Treasure hunters, convinced wealth lay beneath it, destroyed the stone with dynamite. Nothing was found below, or so they thought, because the real value may not have been under the stone. It may have been on it. A cross, 4 dots, 2 letters, H and O. For decades, researchers have argued over its meaning. Some dismissed it as meaningless. Others believed it was a marker. But what if the stone was never meant to be understood on Oak Island alone? What if it was part of a much larger message, a trail meant to be followed backward through time? To answer that question, investigators stopped digging and started traveling. Because symbols don't exist in isolation. They belong to belief systems, to orders, to people who shared knowledge across borders. In Italy, researchers entered Santa Maria Nuova, a church built in 1080. Its walls were covered with carvings, paintings, and cryptic markings placed there nearly 1,000 years ago. And hidden among them was something unmistakable. The same cross, the same 4 dots, carved centuries before Oak Island was even officially discovered. Could this be coincidence, or was the Hoe Stone copying a symbol already known and used across medieval Europe? Historians remind us that medieval builders rarely carved anything without purpose. Churches were not just places of worship. They were vaults of knowledge. Some messages were meant for everyone. Others were meant only for those who understood the code. And few groups understood symbolism better than the Knights Templar. Founded in 1119, the Templars were warrior monks, sworn to protect pilgrims traveling to the Holy Land. But that was only their public role. Behind the scenes, they became something far more powerful. They built castles, engineered tunnels, and created the first international banking system. Kings borrowed from them. Popes depended on them. And according to some researchers, they guarded relics recovered beneath the ruins of Solomon's Temple in Jerusalem. The Holy Grail, the Ark of the Covenant, sacred treasures of the ancient world. There is no proof that the Templars possessed these objects, but there is also no proof that they didn't. What we do know is this: when the order was suddenly destroyed, their treasure vanished. On Friday, October 13, 1307, King Philip IV of France ordered the arrest of every Templar in the kingdom. They were accused of heresy, blasphemy, and unspeakable crimes. Most historians now agree the charges were fabricated. The real motive was power. The Templars were too wealthy, too independent, too dangerous. But when soldiers stormed their strongholds, they found something unexpected. The vaults were empty. Records from the period describe ships leaving French ports just days before the arrests. 18 galleys, 50 horses, no official destination. So, where did they go? Some believe the Templars fled to Scotland. Others point to Portugal, where the order was quietly absorbed into a new organization. But another destination keeps emerging in the evidence. Malta. Centuries later, the Knights of Malta rose to prominence. Officially, they were a separate order, but symbolically, architecturally, and philosophically, They shared remarkable similarities with the Templars. In Malta, investigators entered ancient prisons built by the order. These were not ordinary cells. Their walls were covered in carvings left behind by prisoners centuries ago. Names, dates, symbols. And among them, carved into cold stone, was the same cross with 4 dots. Researchers believe these markings were not decoration. They were signals, indicators that something sacred had once been present. Perhaps hidden, perhaps guarded. Why would prisoners carve such symbols unless they already understood their meaning? And why does that same symbol appear again on Oak Island? Another group enters the story at this point, one that cannot be ignored. The Freemasons. From the moment the money pit was discovered in 1795, Freemasons have been involved in nearly every organized search effort on Oak Island. Triangles, compasses, squares, letters. These symbols appear both in Masonic tradition and in medieval sites associated with the Templars. Many scholars believe Freemasonry evolved from surviving Templar networks after the Order's destruction. If that is true, then Oak Island may not be a random treasure hunt driven by greed. It may be a continuation of something much older, a project designed to last centuries. Then there is the matter of bloodlines. One name appears again and again in historical records: de Villiers. From Jerusalem to France, from France to Malta, and eventually across the Atlantic. In 1632, a knight of Malta named Isaac de Rosley led an expedition to North America to establish a French colony. He chose a site in Nova Scotia, just 15 miles from Oak Island. Why there? Was it strategic? Or was it familiar? Was Oak Island already known long before it entered written history? What if the island was never meant to be looted? What if it was meant to be protected? The flood tunnels, the complex engineering, the layered platforms buried deep underground. This wasn't the work of pirates. It was the work of engineers who understood how to defeat time itself. People who expected others like them to eventually return. And maybe that is why, after more than 2 centuries, Oak Island still holds its secret, because the story is not finished. Or perhaps we are still missing one final connection, one last symbol, one final place that completes the trail, because every secret order leaves a mark, and the Knights Templar never marked anything by accident. If the Templar trail truly leads to Oak Island, then the real question isn't what is buried there. The real question is who was meant to find it, and when.